Today's the 17th of June 2007 and I'm Harry Wark. We're interviewing Bill Stubbs, an ex-president and life member of the Glebe Hockey Club at Les Wark's place at 7 Gibbs Street, Des Moines. I'm going to ask Bill a few questions about his experiences with the hockey club. Bill, what year did you first start playing hockey?
Harry, I started playing hockey in 1954. The reason I started playing hockey and gave up playing rugby league for the Police Boys Club was a friend of mine, Darryl Fisherman, decided he wanted to have a game of hockey. And of course the man that was encouraging him was a chap called Victor Westercott. And I said, okay, let's give it a go. And we started playing. And it was enjoyable. I mean, the team was supposed to be under 16. I was a year younger. I really had 2 years in the under 16s. And some of the guys in the team were a little older than 16. So, and to me, you'd go off and play. And I think in those days, in a lot of sports, because they didn't have controls, teams had players in their team, whether it be hockey or football or whatever. Guys are older, a year older.
And who was your first coach?
Vern Turner. Vern Turner was really the guy that was pushing, I think those days, the juniors, and had the time as well. I believe he had the time. And he used to come down, and if you didn't have a hockey stick, gave you a hockey stick and whatever. And he did that for a number of years. But you know, once you started playing, most of us went and bought our sticks and so on.
Where did you live when you first started playing hockey?
Glebe Point Road, Glebe. Yeah.
And where did you play mainly and train?
Jubilee Oval. In those days, I mean, the club for many years trained and played at Jubilee Oval on grass. Although as we got into playing grade, the younger guys like Victor Westercott, myself, Pat Nolan, Jimmy Flood, we used to train over at Wentworth Park during the week. If the club wasn't training, we'd have another training day at the park.
Who was your favourite coach and manager?
Well, that's a bit hard. I mean, as far as coaches go, you've got to remember in those days, the captain was the coach and the manager. So everyone, that sort of guy was the person you looked up to in looking after the team. But in most of the grades as well, while you had a captain, he was coach, he was whatever, you had mature players around you who had the ability to give you advice. For instance, in my first year playing first grade in 56, I mean, not too sure who was the captain then, but what I found interesting is that the players around you, the older players around you, would give you encouragement and tell you things what to do. I mean, Kenny Wark Senior was very good at that. Jackie Taylor was an encouragement. Frankie Murray. I was playing inside left, so Frank was behind me, and Victor was the centre half. So Victor and I were mates. So we'd talk to each other as well. So yeah, it's hard to put a fix on it over the years of playing, because a lot of the guys that captained the side were so. Even Harry himself, your father, was also very good at captaining the side. He'd get you to do things, he'd encourage you and so on. But most of the players that I played with in Glebe, the older players, always gave you encouragement to do your best.
Thanks, Bill. What's your most pleasant memory of Jubilee Oval?
On or off the field? I mean, on or off the field. I mean, playing on Jubilee Oval was it was good if the ground was hard, but it was horrible when it was full of mud, and anything could happen in those sort of games. But some of the social events after, what I loved about playing teams like Liverpool in those days, they could be the toughest games you could probably have on the field. And I've seen, and one match that is quite vivid in my memory was we were playing Liverpool, and I wasn't in, I think that day I didn't play first grade, but there was an altercation, and Kenny Wark got sent off. And the interesting thing was the ladies from Liverpool, behind the fence, jumped the fence and attacked Kenny. And of course, the first bloke that came to Kenny's aid was Harry, his brother. So to me, that was hysterical and it was serious at the time, but when the game finished, the women were fighting outside, still arguing and carrying on outside, and all the guys from Liverpool and Glebe were at the bar. I mean, everyone was laughing about it. So, I mean, that's a memory that probably stuck in my mind.
Did you find the graduation from the junior to the senior ranks difficult, or was it smooth?
I was lucky in some aspects to come straight out of juniors, and I was a state under-16 junior player, to go into first grade, the same as Victor did the year before. Some intrepidation in doing that because it was pretty tough in those days, and some of the guys you played against on grass seemed to be a lot different to what the guys are on the turf today. And there were some really hard heads from Ryde and St George who were quite happy to take you out of the game, even no matter what age you were. So that was difficult. I'd have to say, with the encouragement I got from the players, the first grade players, I mean, at the end of the day, I was an inside left. I scored something like 13 goals that year, the same as Ray Thorpe and Harry Wark. So, and I owe part of that to guys like Kenny telling me, Bill, just follow the ball in, and sure as eggs, Harry and Ray are going to miss some balls, we could just trap and push it in, which is basically what I did. It was good basic hockey. But yeah, that was difficult going into that era, and there were some times in my mind whether I was too young to do that.
Thanks, Bill. Who's the club official or officials that stick in your mind the most?
Well, you've got to look at those days. The guys that an influence on me was a fellow called Kel Dickey, who was president of the club at one stage, and Kel encouraged me to become president in my late 20s. So he's one person. Ray and Harry Wark Senior, guys that were always on the committee, always working for the club. The important thing about the success of Glebe Club has not just been the players on the field have all been good players, but the management of the club. The management of the club has always been strong, and while we've had good management, the club has always progressed. Even today, I think the club is very well managed. So when I look at through the years, as a young bloke, I look at guys like Kel Dickey and Harry and Ray as a club secretary, and some of the other older guys in the club who were on that committee at the time. And as you progress, I mean, I think there's been some good presidents and that after my time as well. I mean, Jeff Patterson did it for 5 years. Bob's had basically a 10-year stint. But even in between of that, even though Charlie did 1 year, Charlie was very influential in making sure that when we started having to have 6 teams, we had to have players in those lower 6 teams, and we had to promote the juniors. And really, Charlie started encouraging that. Even had 112, because he come to me and Bill, and he said, Bill, so I was playing 3rd or 4th grade, and he said, Bill, would you look after 6th grade? And I went down and did that. I mean, I had a lot of fun doing that with the kids, and Harry Wark Senior did the 5th grade side, and we sort of had this mixture of young blokes in 5th and 6th grade, and we just sort of worked between them. And of course, Kenny joined me as well. He played in goals in 6th grade, and we got beaten in the grand final. But we had a lot of fun down there with the older guys. Bennett Dunn was another guy that came and joined me, and Paul Rogers.
Thanks, Bill. Did you win many premierships in your time with Glebe?
Gee, Harry, I mean, yes, I have. I mean, I've won a few first grade premierships. I've won 2nd grade as captain coach. I've won 3rd grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, and of course I've been successful at even coaching coaching as well as playing, and coaching first grade at grand final, which was a marvellous achievement that I got a lot of satisfaction out of.
And how many games in total did you play for the club, Bill?
Well, it's well over 500, so exactly, I don't know the exact number,
Yeah.
but it's well over 500.
That's fine. This year is the club's 77th year. Why do you think it's lasted this long?
I think it lasts long because of the camaraderie in the club. Even watching the young blokes play today, they're all very integrated with one another. They seem to mix very well together, and it's no different in our day. I mean, some of the things that we did in my younger days was going to carnivals a lot, and that started from the time even in juniors we went to a couple of carnivals, But even with the seniors, we used to go to these carnivals at Bathurst and Goulburn and other carnivals, St George Carnival. Then they used to have a seven-a-side at North Sydney. And I think that built a good camaraderie with all the guys in the team. Yeah, we mightn't have all got on perfectly together from time to time, and that may have got critical because we didn't win the game of one another, but we always stuck together. I mean, and one of the interesting things is a very young guy. I went to Bathurst with the first grade side in the mid 56, 57, and the thing that amazed me in an introduction to me is how much the team stuck together, because Glebe in those days was a team that was feared by most teams, city and country. And we went to Bathurst and we played in this carnival. It was cold and wet, whatever. And even then it was cold, and Harry said to me, he said, "Look, come and sit in the car for a while." He had the big Ford Merc. And I got in the car and he said, "Bill, I think you need something warm up." And he pulled out a flask of rum and he said, "You better have a swig of this." I said, "Right." I did that. Then we went out and played. The interesting thing was, when Glebe played, after the first couple of games that Glebe was winning, everyone followed Glebe. And we sat in this game, this quarter final, which we actually finished up losing. And we were playing with Goulburn Workers or one of those two good sides, or Bathurst Waratahs. Anyway, we're playing this game and the crowd starts getting onto Kenny. And Kenny just took it all in, and then when he got the ball went into the crowd. He hit a few into the crowd. And I just stood there in amazement as a 16, 17-year-old kid, and I was saying, "God." Got to half time, and the crowd's really getting stuck into us. And Jackie Taylor says, "Come on, boys, we better get in the middle of the field and huddle around over here." And we actually went to the centre of the field and huddled until half time was over. And then went on to play. And that always stuck in my mind. I mean, I sit and I giggle about it now, but it was a real eye-opener. And it was why they wanted us to lose. I also saw it as a huge respect for the players and the club itself.
Thanks, Bill. Do you think the club will celebrate its 100th year?
Most certainly, Harry. I mean, I think this club is exceptional. We were told that if we didn't get a turf some years ago, and we're going back probably 10, 15 years, 16, 20 years ago, that we would eventually die. I think people don't know the quality and the camaraderie of the club and how it develops and grows. Even in the old days when we struggled to get 4 junior sides, the club stuck together and worked at it and kept going and still continue to win premierships. So, yep, I think we'll go on with it. I think the guys, maybe one day we'll get our own turf, but I think the club's already a sound. Just looking at the young blokes playing first grade today, I mean, it says enough for me.
Thanks, Bill. What are the major differences between the grass game and the turf game as you see it, Bill?
As I said, well, if you play on grass, you've got to stand up straight. If you're playing on turf, you've got to bend your back. And I'm not too sure that's good for your back in the longer term. But yeah, it's a different style of game. Bubbling balls means you've got to play a straight bat all the time.
With the number 4 railway arch down there at Jubilee, have you got one best memory you could share with us, Bill?
I suppose the 82 grand final, I suppose, is my best memory, which we won. And I know I finished up laying on the bench out near the oval railing after we'd celebrated late into the night. Unfortunately, I wasn't driving. My daughter-in-law drove me home. So yeah, that was a great night. But there's been other great nights as well that we've had down there that stick.
Do you access the club's website?
Very occasionally. I think it's a good idea. I think that's something that everyone should get used to doing. But I suppose when some of the older players may not do that because they're technical, they don't have the skills to do that, but yeah.
How do you think we could best maintain contact with our retired players?
That's there's only one way you can do that. I mean, if you knew they could use the website, that'd be great. But I think you're going to have to continue to email them, send them letters if you know the address. If you can't, send them emails. A lot of older guys, I'd say, older than myself, I can use the web, but older guys, I would think, Harry, would need to have some sort of mail out to them.
Right. Do you think this is important to maintain contact with our older players?
Oh, most certainly.
Would they appreciate it?
I would say 99% would, yeah.
Right, thank you. Did you get more fun out of playing the higher grades or down the ranks a bit?
Well, it happens at different times in your life. I mean, you love playing first grade at any time. And of course, as you get older, you've got different goals and different achievements between your work and your pleasure time. I had a lot of time. I enjoyed playing first grade. I enjoyed coming down into second and third grade and playing there as captain coach, and right down to looking after the young blokes in sixth grade. And I mean, the good thing about that, and I was fortunate I had some guys around me who had a lot of knowledge to play with those young blokes, so we was able to impart our knowledge. Of course, we were playing on grass most of the time there, so. But yeah, different type of fun at different times of your life.
Thank you. If in a few sentences, could you encapsulate the Glebe spirit of your era?
I think we took the game, we were comrades in arms. We played it hard. We enjoyed the after part of the game. We attended functions together. It's very difficult when you take all that in together. We enjoyed the game. I think we played with fun. We were good enough to win, and we played with a lot of fun. But at the same time, we were dedicated to making sure we had the right skills and the right strategies to win the game.
Thanks, Bill. Did you coach the club's junior teams?
Did a lot of that too. I've got, as you know, I've got two boys, Craig and Brett, and of course I coached Craig at different times in juniors, in the club juniors. I also coached Brett all bar about 1 year in the junior, except for really coaching him under 10s and under 11s. I did probably about 3 or 4 years there with him up until he was 16 or 17. And of course, I coached both of them at Sydney representative level, so I've had a lot of close contact with the younger people. And might I add, I think if you want to be a good coach, coach juniors, because what it teaches you, you must know the basics of any game to be able to coach. You cannot do the higher skill things or the higher techniques and strategies in playing a game if your basics aren't good. So, coach juniors, you'll soon learn the basics.
Right. And why is the club having great difficulty in attracting junior coaches in 2007, Bill?
Not sure of that, Harry. It's a matter of I'm not that close enough around the club to understand that. But I would think that maybe there's certain pressures on players to not want to give up that additional time to go down there and coach the youngsters. They're probably still more interested in playing their senior hockey rather than saying, I've got to do some work at the junior level as well. And I think in my day, of course, I did it because I was a father. And I think if we've got some fathers around, and old fathers who've played the game, maybe there's an avenue of attracting those guys to look after the juniors. But time is one of the issues, and you don't get many guys wanting to do that. I think to give up their Saturdays to perhaps they're more interested in running around doing their things for themselves and then go and playing their game. So you've got to find some nexus that you can encourage them to do that. I mean, I know I talked to Vernon Howe the other day, and I'm always still amazed that he puts in a lot of time to the juniors. So, and there's a guy that doesn't play now, but he still loves doing that for the club.
Thanks, Bill. Should the club pay junior coaches, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to pay anyone, you do it at the top level. We don't do it at the top level.
Of all the players you've played with, Bill, who made the biggest impression on you? Can you single out one person, or
no,
just a couple?
Pretty hard to single out one person. I mean, we've got the guy that was great to play with is Pat Ireland. I mean, he was 3 times Olympian. I mean, that says enough in itself when you're playing with Pat and the dedication that he put in. Even just training with him as a young bloke, he was so dedicated. But there's other guys that I enjoyed playing with. Victor, although he was a bit eccentric at times, the way one year he was playing centre up, next year he was playing left wing. He used to have different ideas of what he wanted to do. That's fine. But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, Ray Thorpe was a great centre forward. Harry Wark was a great inside right. When I go back to my early days, Kenny Wark was a marvellous fullback. I mean, every good as bit as his son. I mean, unfortunately, he never got the recognition internationally. Loved playing with him. Loved watching him play. He was just a bit of a freak. When you go up through the ranks themselves, there are other. I mean, Desi Wise played with us, but he was a great player. But he wasn't the warrant officer. Really wasn't. He was a good communicator if he wasn't captain. But when he was captain, he used to annoy the crap out of people, and guys like Lenny Needham and Charlie Brown. I've heard them tell him to go and where to go in a game. He'd yell at him. He'd be standing there playing. His voice would come up and say, "Get whatever." There's, and that he used to annoy him. Even if you're playing good, he'd be still at you. And I think the warrant officer lacks some individual skills. But when I look at them, I mean, like you could go back and look at guys like Frankie Murray. I mean, I'm going back in the years now. And then when you come up through the ranks, other than Pat, but Charlie was a great player. Rocker Fox was one of the steady, and Paulie Rogers, steady halves. You know, they didn't do anything brilliant, but gee, they could close down and attack. So yeah, I mean, Bennett Dunn was a bit of a freak. The way he used to play the game, nothing brilliant in skills, but what he lacked his skills, his guts and determination just to want to win was more than enough. And we've had a lot of those guys in the club that have done that. Vern Turner was a great player too, and great mentor when you're playing next to him. He used to talk to you all the time. He could tell you where to stand. Stand, I'll pass you the ball. And he did. He passed the ball, I'll score a goal. Those, when you look at that overall, in the old days, I'm going back to the old days more than the current days. I played a lot of hockey with the older guys, even Harry and Kenny, and after we started playing lower grades, so, and Paul and Bennett, and we had a lot of fun. And that's, I think, the club, what it's like. Not only do we play good hockey, but we have a lot of fun when we're doing it.
Thanks, Bill. If you had...
I don't think so. Maybe I'd train a bit harder. But then again, one of the disappointments I had, or some of us had as young blokes in the club, was that sometimes there was someone would turn up from Queensland and they'd replace one of these, myself as a young bloke, or Paul, or whoever as a young bloke, and that was a bit disappointing. So I've always had an attitude that I would rather see our club develop the young blokes and get the best out of them and play at first, and for them to go on and play first grade. And I was really excited the last couple of years when we basically got all juniors playing first grade and we're winning premierships. And it's something I've always believed in. But if someone turns up at the club, my view was he's got to earn himself first before you plonk him in first grade.
Thanks, Bill. Well, what was your lowest ebb with the club, Bill?
Picked off in first grade.
What enabled you to continue on despite this disappointment?
I just love the club. I mean, the club in itself is, in my eyes, brilliant. It's one of the best clubs you could ever possibly be with. It has a hell of a lot of history, and we're all good mates. And at least I can still go up and shake hands with all the young blokes that are playing first grade. I think that's great.
So what advice would you give the club to enable it to flourish in the future?
Just keep doing what they're doing. I mean, good management creates a good club. Keep concentrating on your juniors, even if we start to lose, we don't have the numbers, but keep working at it, because we always seem to be able to pluck out of the juniors players that were good enough to go on and play first grade, and some even go higher. You know, when we look at the club and all the state players we've had over the years, from since the inception of the club, there's always been some players in the club that have gone on and played representative honours, and a lot of them have come out of the junior ranks. And I think if you keep concentrating on that, yes, try and make sure we get good coaches down the junior ranks, teach them the good basics, good skills, and let them then give them the incentive to come up and play grade. And even if they've got to start in 3rd or 4th grade, if they're good enough, and I see it today with some of the 15, 16-year-olds playing 4th grade, I think that's great. I mean, they'll develop their skills. I mean, I played 4th grade when I was 15, in 1954. And it was because 4th grade, often the juniors then played in the, under 16 played in the afternoon. And often then, the 4th grade wasn't playing very far away. So some of us, 4th graders were short, they'd duck over and they'd grab us and we'd go over there and play 4th grade. So I did start playing senior ranks probably back in 54 and 55.
Thanks, Bill. Do you think that the technology and the way fields and sticks has changed the way the game's played? Or is it...
I think the field, the synthetic has changed the game.
Not so much the technology of the sticks and the fiberglass. And
I don't see that. I mean, other people may have a different view on that, Harry, but I don't see that. I think the game, by going to a synthetic surface, has changed dramatically. That allows you then to bring in other dimensions into the game in relation to how you play the game, how you coach the game, and it can change the style, maybe the style of the stick and sort of skills you've got to have. But basically, the game changed when it went to synthetic surface.
Thanks, Bill. And did your hockey interfere with your work?
I think no. Well, no. I mean, you when you're younger, it doesn't matter. You're not striving to get to the top. But I'd say that when I started studying accounting and get qualified, it was often hard to train on the nights if you had to go to tech on the Wednesday night training, which was the religion in those days. You had to go training Wednesday night. But that was the only thing that probably interfered in my studies to get qualified. Of course, when you start studying accounting in any club, they ask you to be the treasurer. So at 18, 19, I was also the treasurer of the club, for about 3 or 4 years.
So conversely, did your work interfere with your hockey? Could you devote the amount of time to hockey that you would have liked?
I don't think when you've got to work and play any sport that you can devote the amount of time that you want to either. So if there is a diversion for your sporting, and often you give your sport up for your work, so it doesn't. And there's an element of interference, and therefore you can't put as much time in as you can, would like to. However, that being the case, and that's why probably Victor, Pat, I, a couple of others, actually used to do additional training down at Wentworth Park because we decided we wanted to put a bit more time into it. So it's a matter of up to yourself. If you want to do it, you can do it.
Thanks, Bill. Did you get many injuries playing hockey?
No, I've been pretty lucky, Harry. Lost one tooth, and that. I'm still still haven't lost any other teeth. I've had my face cut with glass and a head clash. But other than that, I don't think I've not missed the game because of hamstrings and calf muscle injuries or that. I've been pretty fortunate in that area.
Thank you. So your association with the Glebe Hockey Club's been fun from start to finish?
A lot of fun, mate. A lot of fun. Even when I was president, it was still fun.
What's the the achievement for the club of which you're most proud, Bill?
That I'm proud of?
Yeah, for your
I suppose my personal achievements for the club have been really, other than, well, first grade is one aspect, but this is just the start of your hockey career. Playing hockey is just part of it. I suppose my greatest achievement has been in the coaching area, and with juniors, and with first grade, and even the grades where I've been captain coach. And the fact is, when we had to have 6th grades and we had to teach kids down in 4th and 5th grade, I mean, that was a great achievement too. There's no real one, but I think there's no real great achievement in my mind. But the coaching was significant because I was able to put things back into the club and get the club to continue to move forward. Being on the management committee is one aspect, but making sure things happen on the field is another. And I suppose I'd have to say I enjoyed both, and looking after and bringing the younger blokes through. When I see those guys rise up and play first grade, the Danny O'Brien's, my own son Craig, and even my own son Brett, who had a few games up there. I enjoyed seeing that happen because you feel as if you've achieved something. And then coaching first grade with the young side, that was, to me, when people said we couldn't, it's going to be difficult to do, and we won. We had 2 great players on the side, Buster and Kenny Wark Jr. But you still got to have the other 9 guys, and they all played very well in that. So that was a great achievement as well. I mean, that was with a young side, with the influx of the older guys like Les Wark and Jeff Patterson and so on.
Thanks, Bill. And the final question, what is the achievement of the club of which you're most proud?
I think the fact that we've been able to provide something for youth in teaching them a sport. You give them good basic groundings in teamwork. If they learn that, they can take it on to the rest of their life. When you're playing a team, you can take what you learn in a team. You communicate with the players in the team. It improves your communication, and you can take that anywhere. You can take that for the rest of your life. You can do something with your life if you learn to be a member of a team, and you can move forward. You may finish up the best man in a team or down the bottom, but I mean, what you do have in the real world, in the real life, is you learn to communicate. And when I see that happen, and what I've seen in the latest days of what's happened with the way that the club's progressed, and I have to say it again, when Glebe won the premiership with the whole 11 players were juniors, that was an enormous achievement, and that's something when I look back on my life and in the club, is something that I'm proud of, because that's something I always wanted to see happen.
Well, thanks very much for your comments, Bill. They're much appreciated. Congratulations on your contribution to the club. It's been outstanding, and we appreciate that.
Harry, it's been an absolute pleasure to be part of the club.
Good stuff.